VikesNow, I am Dustin Baker. We are kicking it here, smack dab in the middle of the offseason. Free agency is about 2 weeks away, if you can believe that, and the draft is 6 weeks after that. And we've had, in terms of Vikings news, a relatively quiet, slow period for about 2 weeks of actionable items. Of course, there are, Aaron Rodgers rumors and Matthew Stafford trade rumors and all that, which I think are ridiculous, but NFL media, those are too tantalizing to avoid. But I think business will begin to pick up this week for all things Vikings, mainly because free agency is so close. And based on how the NFL calendar usually rolls, plus the way the Vikings do things with this current regime, I want to go through kind of a primer kit so you know what to expect this week from the Vikings as things get a little bit more actionable than they were in the last 2 weeks, where it was pretty mundane. With the coaching carousel, it seems the Vikings only lost Grant Udinski to the Jaguars. I can't remember if the Saints offensive coordinator job has been filled yet. Durante Jones interviewed down there. But the last 3 or 4 weeks are usually about the coaching carousel in the NFL, and the Vikings kind of dodged a bullet, sans Grant Udinski. All right, but these are the things that you should look forward to as a Vikings fan in the next week or so. The NFL Combine business starts to get going Thursday. So I'm sure you'll remember, but just to call it out, at the NFL Combine, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell separately, they get in front of a microphone and kind of discuss their plan for the offseason, and then reporters are free to ask them whatever they want. And I'm sure they'll ask about Sam Darnold because that's the hot topic until there's a resolution on him. But to give you an example as to why this is important, last year when Kevin O'Connell spoke, he all but confirmed that the Vikings would be in the market for a new running back, whether it was from free agency or the draft. O'Connell said that Combine week, and about a week and a half later, they signed Aaron Jones. So he didn't hold back on his plan there, and you should expect the Vikings to give a couple hints, even though they get more diplomatic as they go, as they get settled into these head coaching and general manager roles. Another example is Kevin O'Connell last year. He maintained the company line that Kirk Cousins has earned the right to be a free agent, which is still really weird verbiage to me. It's like, what a badass. The guy gets to go on the open market. They have said a similar thing about that already on Sam Darnold. I'm guessing that's amplified if O'Connell is asked about Darnold at the Combine. But the broad takeaway about these interviews that they'll do is this brand of leadership, Kevin O'Connell, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, they usually tell you what they're going to do. There's not a lot of misdirection. There's not a lot of lying. Kwesi has gotten a lot more diplomatic or coy with his words. But on the whole, they usually tell the truth about their intentions. So when those two separately get in front of microphones at the Combine, there's going to be some hints about how the roster will look. They all but predicted last year they'd get a new running back, and bada bing, they got Aaron Jones. All right, so that is the non-on-the-field part of the Combine. Also, in the last 2 seasons, at this week on the calendar, the NFLPA team report card is published. And you'll recall in 2023, the Vikings were top dog. 2024, they fell to second to the Miami Dolphins. And this year, they should, I'm guessing, remain in the top 3, hopefully reclaim the top spot. And that's the report card that every player votes on for, best culture, best facilities, treatment of families, all that cool stuff. And it's always timely, especially for the teams like the Vikings that are near the top because, hey, free agency is only a week and a half from the release of those report cards. And it's kind of a sweet chip to tell, hey, look at this. We ranked top. We had an A+ on the NFLPA report card. You should come play for us. Couple that knowledge with the Vikings having $63 million to spend on internal and external free agents. The timing of the NFLPA report card should be pretty sweet unless they take an unforeseen downturn in it, which I don't expect. But I'm not exactly sure of the date. I'm going to guess midweek that thing drops, and we'll figure out if the Vikings stay in the top 3 or top 5. Alrighty, the next one that you should start to contemplate. A familiar little phrase here. On the calendar last year, and on this week, I should say, Alexander Mattison was released. You might remember overthecap.com had Alexander Madison's contract and dead cap number wrong last year. So none of us thought it made a whole lot of sense for Madison to be released. Well, it turns out because OTC had that number wrong, he was a very smart cut candidate, and the Vikings cut him on this week 1 year ago today. What does that mean now? Well, Alexander Madison doesn't play here, and I think he's scheduled to be a free agent in Las Vegas. I don't know. Maybe he's got a year left on his deal. I can't remember. But if there are going to be roster cuts, Madison was like the only large one in terms of workload in 2023 that I recall got cut last year. So the suspects this year are Ed Ingram. The Vikings can probably cut ties with him and save $3 to $5 million to spend on somebody else. I don't know if they'll get rid of Garrett Bradbury, but this would be the time to contemplate that, so he'd have a nice little buffer to prepare for free agency. And then other guys like Brian Asamoah, who I don't know will be back. He doesn't play he doesn't play on defense. They never put him in. Even when injuries hit, they find all these ways to not play Brian Asamoah. He's a special teams guy. And then some fringe theories have said Josh Oliver could be released. I guess that could make sense, but to me, he's one of the best run blocking assets that the Vikings have. And if you're trying to improve the run game, why would you get rid of him? But if there's going to be a player released by the Vikings, it's probably going to be this week like Madison last year. So keep an eye on Ed Ingram, Garrett Bradbury, Brian Asamoah. All right, a couple more so you are prepared for this week. This is a throwback. 7 years ago, this week on the NFL calendar is when it became common knowledge. Like, I don't remember if it was Ian Rappaport or Adam Schefter at the time, but they said in 2018 that Case Keenum would not be returning to the Vikings, and shortly thereafter he signed with the Broncos. Why does this matter? Well, somewhat quasi-similar to the Case Keenum era. Sam Darnold played for the Vikings last year. So this could be the week where Schefter, Rappaport, one of the powers that be, said the Vikings are not expected to re-sign Sam Darnold. And then that would give us our almighty clue about the most important position in the sport, knowing either Darnold is going to hit free agency and go sign with the Raiders or Rams or something like that, or the deadline for a franchise tag is going to be sneaking up. Let's see, they had 2 weeks from the time the window opened, so we're about 10 days if the Vikings decide to use that maneuver, tag him and then trade him. We shall see. But this would be a time, normally on an NFL calendar works, where we start to learn the Vikings' plan for Sam Darnold. That's how we learned about Keenum in 2018. And then two other things. I mentioned Alexander Madison last year was released. This applies to the whole NFL. So this is when other players, maybe not absolute superstars, but some of the mid-tier guys start getting released around the NFL that maybe we hadn't even thought of. I think last year there was a couple dudes from the Dolphins that got released, like Emmanuel Ogbah. Oh, God, there's another one from the Dolphins. But there are players from around the NFL that we don't have on our radar right now as existing free agents that the Vikings could sign. The pool will just get bigger. Now, remember, too, with free agency, you'll pull up a PFF list, CBS Sports, 33rd team, top 150 free agents. I swear to God, you look at those for the last 8-9 weeks, and by the time we get to free agency, like the top 10 guys usually go back to their other team, their same team, and then you're like, ow. I had spent all year thinking that, DJ Reed is going to be with the Vikings, and then the Jets re-signed him or something like that. So be prepared for that the top 100 lists of free agents, the best guys may just return to their teams, but you'll get more players in the pool as existing teams release their guys. Like Jair Alexander, he's been kind of whispered on Vikings Twitter about a cap casualty in Green Bay. He seems to fit the Kwesi Adofo-Mensah MO of a guy who will be more affordable and at the peak of his powers is pretty damn good. So look for more releases around the NFL. And then finally, the NFL Combine itself. I think I've finally understood over the last 5 years that this is Combine week, but the stuff doesn't really get cooking in terms of the sweet stuff until later in the week, like Friday and Saturday. But I'll reiterate for the Vikings' sake, if we assume that they are going to stick and pick at number 24, The team needs a cornerback, unless they re-sign Byron Murphy and go get DJ Reed, go get Paulson Adebo, go get Travarius Ward. A cornerback above all else, because you don't have any startable ones besides Mekhi Blackton. A defensive tackle, Walter Nolan, Tyleik Williams. Let's see. Who am I forgetting here? Kenneth Grant from Michigan. There's a couple others that the Vikings could dip their toes in, but I think defensive tackle makes a lot of sense if they stick and pick, mainly because they haven't drafted one since Sharif Floyd in 2013. And then interior offensive line, I don't know that the 24th pick would be spent on a guard. Maybe if Tyler Booker was there and they just want to put their foot down once and for all. But I hope they kind of address guard in free agency. It's not a premium position, but we've learned that you can't just ignore it. There's about 7 pretty good guards on the open market outside of Trey Smith, who's probably going to get $20 million. So those are the big needs: the interior trenches, offense, defense, and cornerback. And you get to watch those guys at the combine. So at cornerback, Siobhan Revelle Jr., East Carolina. Only thing bad about his stock at all is he tore his ACL in September. Benjamin Morrison, he's the one coming off a bad hip. And then Jahdae Barron, Texas. So there's going to be cornerbacks that are there available. It's just whether or not the Vikings already have that taken care of in free agency. So, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, Kevin O'Connell get in front of a microphone. They usually give hints about what they are going to do. They don't lie to us. The NFL player report card should hit this week. Alexander Madison was released 1 year ago this week, which means Garrett Bradbury, Ed Ingram, Brian Asamoah, those type of dudes could be on the chopping block. We'd learn about it this week if so. This was the time 7 years ago when Case Keenum was deemed not to be coming back to the Vikings. A similar announcement, so to speak, from Adam Schefter or one of those types could come about Sam Darnold. Other players released around the NFL, and then the combine itself for those who partake. All right, that's all I got for this Sunday afternoon. Skol, baby.